So tonight I want to talk to you about alchemizing your life circumstances to be a living prayer. And first I'll say I'm a little nervous because this is going to be a vulnerable share for me. So please feel with me and, excuse any tripping over my words or emotion. I thank you in advance. First, I'd like to start by sharing the definition of alchemy. I love this. We've been talking about this a lot too, so this isn't fresh. A seemingly magical process of transformation, creation, or combination. Yes. So before I get into what I want to share, I have two questions I want to pose to you to kind of keep in the back of your mind as I'm sharing from my journey. The first is, how does alchemy play a vital role in our prayer life? Second, how does one alchemize the circumstances of their life to become a living prayer? So let's talk about this. So just to give you a little backstory about me as a being, because I'm going to share some things from my story. I'll start by saying I've always been a little different. At a very early age, I showed signs of a very unique connection with Source. When I was 3 years old, my grandmother was ill, and something just moved through me, and I laid my hands on her and said, "You're healed." And she was, in fact, healed. And so it became kind of this thing where people would like half joke about like, she doesn't even question if God can heal you. She knows it. And that really carried me through later on in life. So I'm also a very sensitive person, and I believe we're talking about our spiritual gifts tonight as well. So to share a little bit about who I am and how I got through this. Very sensitive. I've always had headaches. Apparently I had headaches even as a baby. I would hit my head. But also because of that, I was able to touch in and detect changes in subtle energy in ways that many beings don't. And so I see how that was a blessing for me to have high levels of pain so early on as just part of my experience. I was able to go this, move through and see something different. And how do I say this? I do believe that we as humans come fully loaded. And we talk about this with the primal spirituality work of like our original spirituality is when we were intact. So in 2015, I was diagnosed with 2 growths in my brain. And over a short period of time, I was able, through healthy living, energy work, etc., able to dissolve one of the growths, and the second remained. The second one that remained was actually on my pineal gland. And we know here through attunement that that's the spirit of love. In yogic traditions, they believe that if you have an extra large pineal gland like I did, that you were just, gifted by God to help move energy. So I really learned a lot from the yogic tradition and learned to accept who I was. I am a pineal gland warrior, and that's what I told myself, which also translates to being a warrior of love. So that said, well, I'll just add one more thing. I have a bunch of notes. Excuse me, guys. There are many people that I know through support groups that also were impacted in this way. And I initiated different experiments with these people where we would consciously sync up and create a field together. We would hold things for each other, and it was something different. So I started leaning into that more, maybe this isn't a curse. I get that my life is in danger and all that, but there's something more here. There's something to work with that's meant for me, right? So fast forward, I was doing pretty good for a while. I had kind of got it under control. And then in 2019, it flared up like crazy. And Gary and I were a couple at the time, and we went through the process of trying to locate a surgeon that would be able to help me. And there were only 3 in the country that actually could operate on this because it was a rare kind of thing. So after all this work and finding, the right surgeon and fighting with insurance, we found the guy. Oh my God, he was great. And I remember very clearly, he said something to me that changed the course of my life. He said, if I get this out of your head, you will make a full recovery. I know it. And he just repeated it a few times. And I was like, yeah, but they say that you're going to make a full recovery. Nope, you're the exception. It's going to be different. So we got a surgery date and it felt like things were working out. We were on top of the moon. And then that was the end of February. That same exact day, we were in Oregon and my family is in Washington State. And we were like, let's drive over to Washington and share the good news. Yay. Well, little did we know that Washington State had also declared a state of emergency that day because of the new COVID-19 disease that had come out. So by the time we reached Washington, stores were being emptied. People were going crazy. It was one step short of people going blah the streets. And I was like, what just happened? I just got my victory. So then fast forward a little bit. Who remembers April 2020? Fun times for everybody. Yay. Beginning of the pandemic, right? So we got the date and then immediately it was canceled days later by the time we got home. I thought I was done. Like, well, how do I make the best of the time that I have right now? Because I was not doing well at all. The surgeon went before a judge and begged the judge to save me. He had a caseload of over 30 people that were needing help, and he picked 3 and went to the judge and told the judge, if I save her, she will recover. Please help me. And he got a special exception to the rule, but there was an exception to the exception, and that was that I had to be completely alone in the hospital. That's really scary. So I had major midbrain surgery, and most people need multiple caretakers to help after surgery. I was physically alone, but I was surrounded by each of you in a different way. I had a group of angels around me. It was like the room was full of people. At that time, there was not just COVID going on. There was also the Black Lives protests that had destroyed Portland. And Portland was boarded up. And it was terrifying. Gary and I drove through the country. All the rest stops were closed. We couldn't even use the restroom. We slept in our car because if I got COVID, I wouldn't get to get surgery and I could die then. So we warriored up and we kept the vibe high and you all surrounded us in prayers and we moved through that and we got there. And I remember when I was dropped off at the hospital and I had to face it alone and he had to go sit in a hotel room and pray and like sit and wait. So fast forward, I did have the surgery, but when I woke up, my left hand and my left leg didn't work. And I asked an attendant, because I also couldn't see. I asked an attendant, please get me my mala, because I need to pray. I need to connect with the source of creation. I need to remember how to get through this right now. And I remember the surgeon came in and it's like he just knew. He touched the left foot and he said, remember, kid, you're making a full recovery. Remember. And I was like, okay. And it's a little gross, but I'll say it like when you have brain surgery, they do something, they use a halo. That's what they call it. And they screw it into your head. So I like had blood dripping down me still. And I joked with the attendants who were, fun fact, all in hazmat suits because this was the beginning of the pandemic. No one was allowed to touch me. It was the closest thing to an alien abduction in person. They were all just surrounding me with suits like, I couldn't understand anything. And I joked and said, I'm a real earth angel now, you guys. And one of the attendants was like, yeah, you are. And so I grabbed this mala right here. My leg wouldn't work yet. My hand wouldn't work. And I began to chant a sacred mantra that I believe is like the alchemist's prayer. And that mantra is Wahe Guru, Wahe Guru, Wahe Jio. And the translation is Wa is ecstasy and bliss. He is here and now. Gu is darkness. Ru is light. Guru means moving from a space of darkness to the space of light. And Jio means soul. It is an alchemist's prayer saying, Source of creation, help me to take this darkness and turn it into light. Move through me, use me as a vessel. So as I started chanting this, I started getting a little feeling in my foot and in my hand. And I said to the nurse, because I've had a few medical things before, I said, I need to become ambulatory. Help, probably not that graceful, but I need to get up, I need to walk. And because of COVID, they had to keep a 6-foot distance from me. Typically, you would have people on either side of you helping you walk. I didn't get that. I was dripping blood and holding my mala and praying with somebody in a hazmat suit 6 feet away. And she was like, don't fall. I can't pick you up. You better not fall. And so I remember this hospital was essentially empty. There were COVID patients on the first floor, and then very, very few patients in there because people were not allowed. But I felt it all. I felt the pain. I felt the spirit of love moving through me, through my pineal gland that had just been unlocked. And I took my mala and I started walking and chanting Waheguru, Waheguru, Wahegio, and feeling the pain, feeling everybody in their houses and in the hospital and everybody in the country and the world afraid. And I would reach the end of this channel where there was this window that looked out to the city. And I remember I would take a breath. I would breathe in the pain and the suffering. And I would exhale love and peace and calm. And then I would do this other round. And I would do it again. Repeat, 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 return to love. And I knew in that moment that I was being used as a sacred vessel. There was no coincidence around the timing of any of this. I had my birthday. Well, we arrived there right before I had the testing, and I had surgery 3 days after my birthday. It's kind of like my personal resurrection story. I was given a new life 3 days after the day I came into this planet. So what was God asking me to do with all this pain? To turn it into love and healing? Alchemizing my life experience of pain. And every time I reached the window, looking over the city, I breathed that out. So afterwards, when I returned back here, sorry, I'm running out of time. When somebody has major brain surgery, they often need brain rehab services to retrain to help to process things because your leg, your arm doesn't work. You hear something and it doesn't sound right. I couldn't visually process things. And fun fact too, it was closed because of COVID. So it was a neurologist's office. So it was basically anything. And there was a strong message of stay home and don't get COVID. And I was like, how am I supposed to put my brain back together, you guys? Attunement, yoga, healthy living was what I had. And boy, did I have a lot, right? So I really, people told me how it was going to be. They told me you won't be able to even hold a job ever. You won't be able to have friendships that are meaningful. You can't socialize because your brain won't be able to handle it. And you're going to have 1.5 million issues that you won't be able to get over, but you'll be alive. You're going to be a broken mess, but you didn't die. And I was like, that's really not good enough for me. That's not God has a big mission and a calling on my life. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do that if I'm a brain damaged mess. Yes, I have some impact from it, but God wanted me to be in wholeness. So that wasn't good enough. And I wanted to override those negative messages with the divine blueprint of wholeness that was what was laid out for my life. As I moved deeper into my healing journey, the things people said were true on a human level. My brain was angry and it didn't want to work. I was not okay. And I remember crying out to the source and saying, if this is what you have for me, just end it now. Because it's too much. It's too much to go through this. And I remember hearing in this outcry, in this prayer, this simple response of, so change it. Change it then. And there was all this, how am I supposed to? And it just became very clear. Waheguru, Wahegio. Just start converting. You've got a lot of fuel. Just convert it. So I started doing that. And you see, prayer is communication with source. It is not one way. God will give you tasks and jobs to do that do not always make sense, but that is the real work. We ask, we receive, we respond. God said, heal yourself and send that healing out. Planet Earth is in danger right now. And guess what, honey? You've got the medicine. If you can channel that in and then you send out a blast of light, you're doing your job, ma'am. And I was like, oh. So I just got into doing my job. Boom, boom, boom. This process of taking pain, try to make it short, sorry. This process of taking the pain and offering it up as a prayer and saying, oh, source, help me make this love once again. Help me share this love with a nuclear love blast when my own healing is occurring. That's alchemizing your life circumstances. A friend of mine recently tapped into my energy field and told me what she felt was it was like moving through a million shards of glass of darkness. And every shard that would hit me turned into light. And it was this process of like, transmute, transmute, into light, into light, into light. I felt very honored by that because that is exactly what I did here. So I started thinking, what if I could collapse and dissolve that timeline where I was living in a damaged body and then hack the system, be an alchemical life prayer that went without ceasing. I wanted it bad. And because brain therapy was closed, I became a Reiki master during that time. I achieved my yoga teaching certification. I became a certified herbalist. I decided I was going to retrain my brain and be useful to others with what I learned. My story is a pretty drastic example of what it means to use the override button in your life and to allow Source to use you as a walking, talking vessel of love and healing in your world. However, I'm you and you are me, and this story is one of our collective resilience. When we tap into this and ask our spiritual nature to animate our very being and do the job of the physical, when we've been impacted, we remember God appointed us to do this. Because you see, when I was trying to figure this out from a human level, my brain was like, no. But what happened is I went higher and I said, you know what? My spiritual brain is perfect and whole. How about my higher self? You want to just drive now? Because like I can't deal with all this overwhelm and the sensory this and the that and the that. And like you seem to do a great job. And as soon as that started happening, oh wow, my spiritual brain has never been cut into. It didn't go through all that. So the people around you may be facing their own limitations in life, and they're likely not going to say to you, hey, you, so-and-so, it's time to step into your spiritual sovereignty and snap into your vibrational place here. You got some jobs to do. Like that's typically not going to happen. However, when you listen with the ears of your heart and open, you're going to hear the universe clearly saying to you, like, hello there, you're a beast. I created you perfectly for the jobs that you're meant to do. And I'd like you to do those. Could you just do your job? Because I'm here with you, right? So one thing that came through very clearly for me was remembering a Bible passage that my mother would remind me of when I was younger. And it's Romans 8:37. And all these things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. I would remind myself, you're more than a conqueror. You've got God on your side. And I would feel this light come into my body. My mom always used to say to me, you know, honey, if God has an army, you're a commander. You're like a general or something, and darkness better look out. And I'm going to say that's true because through my process with this, I said, let there be light. I am a creator, and give me that darkness. It's about to be converted again, 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 again. And that is what we're called to do collectively, whether, whether it's transmuting, bad day or healing from something. That is what a living prayer is to me, is to take this lemon, as we say, and make it lemonade. David referred to a thorny path recently, and I really liked that a lot. Please use me, Source, as I walk this thorny path. One thing I will say too, as I'm wrapping this up, is some advice, and loving advice. Don't you dare, my friends, think that your own healing journey is only about you. It never is. When you heal the world. And it's part of a vibrational job. And when it feels heavy, and when we have to invoke that grit and that resiliency, We realize that you might be staring up at a mountain and feeling like an ant, but you are that mountain. And Source is guiding you up it. And you just take it step by step, transmuting back to love, back to love, back to love. The last thing I want to say is when we do this, watch and see what happens when you unify with the source of creation and consciously co-create, inspire, co-create and conspire with Source to bring healing to the children of the earth around you. Thank you all for listening to my story. I love you. Namaste.